in Afghanistan's greatest story of bravery.
This was not a Taliban force that anybody had ever fought.
A small support force led by 36 U.S. Special Forces soldiers comes face to face with hundreds of enemy fighters.
And you're surrounded. Boom, boom, boom.
One hill holds the key to defeating the Taliban.
Just didn't end. They didn't want us there.
Failure is not an option.
We owned it when the first drop of American blood hit the ground.
Using authentic battlefield footage, cutting-edge graphics, and eyewitness accounts from the heroes who survived. This is the Battle of Kandahar, as never before told.
If they want it, they're going to have to pry it from our cold dead fingers.
September 3rd, 2006, year 5 of the war to defeat the Taliban in Afghanistan. Canadian-led Operation Medusa, the largest offensive in NATO history, is intended to sweep Kandahar, the key province in southern Afghanistan, clear of insurgents. U.S. Special Forces are dispatched in support. Their mission, take the hill, Sperwan Gar, that dominates the area.
Sperwan Gar allows the U.S. Special Forces to get on top of this hill, see the whole valley, and call in airstrikes.
As well as enabling air support for the main mission, they will also block important Taliban escape routes. Taking the hill will give NATO strategic superiority in the region. The 36 Special Forces troops of Task Force 31, joined by a company of Afghan national troops, are divided into 3 teams of 12, known as ODAs. ODA 331 is led by Captain Rusty Bradley, a 3-time Afghanistan veteran.
When you're in a coalition and when you know people are fighting and dying and you're on the same side of that cause, you need to figure out how to get the game. And that was what we made the decision to do.
2 p.m. Loaded on jeeps, trucks, and armored vehicles, the units head off for battle. To reach Sperwan Gar Hill, they first must cross through Rigay, a small village with the only accessible road.
Because the Afghan National Army doesn't have night vision, they end up doing it in the daytime. And now they're driving in daylight up a hill that they know is defended by the Taliban.
In command of ODA 326, Captain Dave Hodges.
We were definitely out of place and not meant to be there. When you get into that space and you start to lose it, you start to get a little bit more anxious about what's going on.
Captain Bruce Scullion leads ODA 336.
I was new to the team, and I had never fought in Afghanistan before. We didn't really have any idea what was waiting for us.
As they drive through the village, the road begins to narrow into a choke point.
In the military term, a choke point means that it funnels all the traffic into one area.
The restricted passageway is the point of maximum danger.
If they put an RPG in my vehicle, the entire column could have literally been stuck trying to get into the entranceway of Sperwan Gar. We cross a point of no return, and now we're inside the fishbowl. That's when all hell broke loose.
It's an ambush. The Taliban were just waiting for all of Task Force 31 to get past the entranceway before opening fire.
You're seeing PKM fire. You're hearing, rounds go off.
Among those caught in the crossfire is 21-year-old Staff Sergeant Jared Eldred.
Yeah, I came to Afghanistan. My first day, the first operation I saw was this Medusa operation, and it was like World War II, going from building to building. Like, what is this? I came from Iraq. This isn't how it is.
You could see the red and green tracers being exchanged, RPG, PKMs, AK-47s, lots of small arms fired.
Within seconds, Sergeant Ben Conrad and ODA 336 are surrounded.
Basically a three-sided ambush is what it is. So we got fire coming from the front, fire coming from both sides.
Boom, 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 and now all of a sudden there's gunfire coming, IEDs hit, rounds are coming towards you at this point. When bullets start impacting, your adrenaline spikes.
And it was a lot of fire. It makes you think, okay, where's this all coming from? Who is it? How many are there?
To suppress the Taliban attack, they bring out the heavy guns. The M2HB 50 caliber machine gun fires a massive 707 grain full metal jacketed bullet, a half-inch in diameter and traveling at a speed of nearly 3,000 feet per second. It delivers more than 10 times the force of a standard 5.56 caliber M4 round.
One round can pass through 3 layers of a cinder block wall.
Despite the advantage of heavy firepower, the Taliban forces refuse to fall back. Instead, their assault on Task Force 31 intensifies.
They were taking so much fire that it was staggering. Machine gun rounds hitting the trucks, RPGs, running right close to the trucks.
Sergeant Greg Stube is in the heart of the firefight.
Where the Taliban were massing on us, they were serious enough to make me reconsider how I felt about being a man. The only truly tough man is the one that hasn't been tested yet.
3 p.m. Task Force 31 can't advance under the relentless Taliban fire.
They were actually defending something, and that was clear. These men were massing. There was support coming in from all directions. For once, they had something that they were actually fighting for and willing to stand up for.
60 minutes into the ambush, Task Force 31 has a major problem. They're running out of ammo.
Said in about 20 minutes we're going to be black on ammo. And black on ammo means you have 1 magazine or less than 3 magazines per person.
.4 p.m. With no way of advancing, Bradley makes a tough decision. They must retreat or risk losing both men and mission.
That was the first time in my military career I had ever broken contact with the enemy.
You can call it pulling back, you can call it withdrawing, whatever you want. If you're not in a position to where you can win the fight, you have to move.
Yeah, that's when it was officially declared a bad day. That was the only round that they won, by God. They got 1, and that one was going to cost them.
2 hours into the battle, Task Force 31's first assault on Sperwan Gar fails to break through Taliban lines. They're starting to realize that this isn't a simple support operation after all.
Number 1, This was not going to be a simple clearing operation. And number two, this was not a Taliban force that anybody had ever fought or dealt with.
The three ODAs fall back to regroup.
We established a security perimeter in the desert.
Before re-engaging, they need to know how many Taliban fighters are in their way, so they call in drone support.
The first drone came in, and we started talking to it.
The MQ-1 Predator drone, able to see without being seen. The gimbal-mounted sensor payload underneath the airframe has cloud penetration and night vision capabilities. Feeding back real-time imagery, it enables troops on the ground to target the enemy with deadly accuracy.
And the things that we were seeing on the camera footage was we were like, wow, these guys are moving in numbers.
He said, well over 100. Holy, are you kidding me?
The drone reveals a massive enemy force, at least 3 times the size of Task Force 31.
Fred operator said they stopped counting at 100 armed insurgents on this target. And he said, I'm going to hit them, and I'm going to hit them hard.
The Predator operator's call for support on Sperwan Gar goes out, and B-1 bombers respond. The B-1 is a long-range precision bomber, holding Mark 84 general-purpose bombs, capable of forming a crater 50 feet wide and 36 feet deep. This is actual footage Captain Rusty Bradley's camera catches from 1 mile away as the bombs fall.
And when a 2,000-pound bomb goes off, it shakes the ground under your feet, and the air in your lungs reverberates even a mile away.
Aircraft and air power to the United States military is key. It's something that is built into all their battle plans, and it was a very important part of this battle and built into this plan as well.
Following up the air assault, all teams of Task Force 31 launch an intense mortar attack.
We just start dumping mortar rounds right on top of them. You just drop. You can essentially cover an entire football field.
The B-1 bomber and mortar rounds ravage the target.
That's when we knew round 2 belonged to us.
Air power and artillery can only do so much. Winning this battle requires the U.S. ground troops taking full control of the hill. September 5th, 5 a.m. Task Force 31 must re-enter the combat zone.
The enemy still controlled all of the villages and the high ground, but this time we executed a deliberate assault against a known fortified enemy position. So now you're not on the defensive, you're the one that's on the offensive.
For the 3 teams, the big question remains. How many Taliban fighters are still out there?
As we rolled back in toward Sperwan Gar the next morning, I don't think anyone had a concept for whether it would become a fight again or whether it would be tumbleweeds rolling through a ghost town.
We're starting to see the ammo cans, we're starting to see the brass, we're starting to see the links, and nobody's shooting at us yet. It's quiet. And then, everybody's trying to figure out what's going on.
This time, the patrol passes through Rigay with no problems. But before they mount an assault on the hill, the task force makes sure every single building is clear and secure.
All 3 teams went in. We needed to secure the southern side of the hill and the western flank, which was primarily compounds.
Captain Bruce Scullion tasks Sergeants Ben Conrad and Jared Eldred, along with the Afghan nationals, to clear a large Taliban compound.
What we need to do is go clear those buildings.
My head is cleared, I'm on my target, but I also know there might be a guy in the corner. I also might know there might be a guy with a bomb attached to him that is ready to self-detonate. The human imagination is what they use to make bombs. So can you plan for every contingency? No, there is a certain amount of luck, but you keep that fear under control long enough to get your job done.
To the south, Captain Dave Hodges takes his team to clear a large schoolhouse.
We get to the school, we throw open a door. There could be a kid behind that door. There could have been a man with a PKM machine gun laying in the hallway. It's been known to happen. They left signs written on the walls saying, infidels die. This is where you're going to die. You don't need to be here. And it was basically a long hallway that kind of kicks to the left and then kicks back to the right. And every time you're breaching that corner, you're thinking you're going to run into something. You're thinking you're going to run into somebody. You're running on adrenaline, and it was very, anxiety-filled.
7 a.m. Captain Scullion's team is now deep inside the Taliban compound.
There's no electricity, so, all dusty. It was dark, pretty anxiety-producing. Your alert level goes up.
If you let that fear bind you down, you just lost your initiative. You lost what is going to make you win. I'm looking at the ground, looking at bombs. I'm not looking up. I'm not looking at what's going on. And worse than me getting killed, it's going to get my friend killed. So you do, at a certain point, you just assume risk and you grit your teeth.
One wrong footstep could kill the entire team.
We get in there, and as soon as we get in there, the ANA start yelling. There's wire run along the bases of the compound, and it's rigged to old Russian artillery shells, rigged to blow.
It's classic Taliban tactics. Let the IEDs do the work. This time, the Afghan national saves the soldiers' lives. All the buildings are clear, so where is the enemy? 9 a.m., Task Force 31 must move on to take the hill without knowing what awaits them. At a punishing incline and no place to take cover, there is no safe way to get up Spur 1 Guard.
I had my fair share of IEDs in my prior trip and everything else, so not fond of roads.
Captain Hodges leads his team on the assault by foot.
We climbed up this mountain, and it's all dirt, and we're on our hands and knees, and we're climbing up this thing, and the ANA guys are slipping, and we're slipping, and
10 a.m. It takes 20 minutes for the team to scale the hill.
I remember getting to the top of the hill and thinking, all right, we're here. What's going on? Why is it so calm? Why can I hear the birds chirping or, my stomach growling? What's going to happen next?
Captain Hodges is down, caught in the explosion from a Taliban IED. The explosion launches a Taliban counterattack. The high ground is not going to be given up without a fight.
They were waiting for some signal that, okay, now it's time to conduct a coordinated three-sided attack.
Under extreme fire, Captain Dave Hodges goes to rescue his injured soldier. An IED has nearly blown the Afghan soldier's leg clean off.
And we had to get off that mountain. There was nothing to hide behind. We were just in the open. And by now, we've taken this casualty. Put him in this litter. And myself and Matt, we grabbed the litter. I'm holding it on one side, Matt's holding it on the other. We got the guy in the middle, and we're sliding down on my ass, sliding down the mountain, engaging targets, holding on. I'm literally one-handed engaging these guys, you know. And we get down to the bottom, and we got the guy, and I look at Matt, and we just start laughing. We're like, this is something Hollywood puts on. And then we, switch back into the game.
11 a.m. As Captain Hodges makes it down the hill, ODA 331 is sent up in one of 3 trucks loaded with ammunition supplies.
So each one of those vehicles had thousands and thousands, 3 times more ammunition than they're supposed to carry for the average combat load.
My driver, Sean, was the best in the business at following the tracks of the vehicle that had gone before us. Because no one wants to be the first one to break new ground where you know there's IEDs littered throughout the countryside.
Buried below ground, improvised explosive devices are the U.S. soldiers' #1 enemy. A lethal combination of farming fertilizer mixed with fuel, housed in cooking oil canisters. On detonation, the gases expand rapidly. Blast waves move at around 1,600 feet per second, with deadly consequences.
I don't remember seeing anything when the bomb went off. I remember feeling intense heat and a red hue to everything I could perceive.
This monstrosity of an IED goes off, and the flame is taller than Spur 1 Gar.
It's almost like being in a microwave where it felt like it was pulsing all the way through your internal organs.
300 yards away, Captain Rusty Bradley's crew hear the explosion.
I sprinted back across the open field, and then that's when I got to the other side of the berm and saw probably one of the most horrific sights I'd ever seen. Mortars, rockets, grenades, claymore mines, 25-gallon drums of fuel, and all of this was burning literally out of control.
Blown out of his truck by the IED, Sergeant Stube is lying injured and on fire amid the wreckage.
I fell into the sand and I was still on fire. And as I tried to swat the flames and put them out, I wasn't putting any fire out, and it hurt like crazy. All I could do was lay there and smell my flesh burning.
Bradley and Hodges risk their own lives to save him.
I remember being dragged farther away from the vehicle. And I remember I was still on fire, but I'd lost control of my ability to stay calm. The pain was beyond anything I'd ever witnessed.
12 p.m. Stube is placed in a ditch, the only shelter they can find.
I saw that when he looked at my wounds, I could see fear in his face. And he was worried. He was worried for me.
There's no way he'll survive this. He had massive respiratory bleeding. He had a hole the size of a football in his hip going straight up into his abdomen. It was bad. It's a very personal moment when you're with somebody and they think that they're gonna die. That's all I'll say.
Everything you know from your childhood, through that moment, it comes into the world right in front of you. And I thought of my son. Had I been a good enough man for him to be proud of who I was, of who his father was. And I really hoped that I would survive.
This is actual footage of Stube's vehicle, captured by Rusty Bradley at the time. Against the odds, all the casualties are saved. And the battle rages on. To control Kandahar, they must secure the hill.
We owned it. When the first drop of American blood hit the ground, I was gonna take it, or they were gonna lose as many people as I could kill trying to take it from us. If they want it, they're gonna have to pry it from our cold dead fingers.
I've seen my fair share of firefights, and I've never been fired at like that. No.
Spirungar essentially is the Taliban's hometown. It's a piece of territory that they've had since their creation. A lot of the Taliban leadership owns land there. So when you say the Taliban was fighting for their home, they were literally fighting for the land that they own and control.
I mean, the amount of fire that came down on us and continued to come down on us, it went on for a very long time. Just gunfight, been quiet. Gunfight, been quiet. And gunfight and gunfight and gunfight. It just didn't end. They didn't want us there. We weren't going to leave.
Captain Dave Hodges calls in more air support. Multiple AH-64 Apache attack helicopters. Equipped with 8 AGM-114L Hellfire missiles with millimeter radio waves, the radar dome ensures they hit with devastating accuracy. Each bunker-busting warhead contains an 18-pound high-explosive charge. Captain Rusty Bradley catches the Apaches on his camera as they attack.
We knew we could rest when those gunships showed up and you could hear the boom of those cannons.
For 2 nights, the Apaches offer vital air support. And finally, after 4 days of continuous fighting, Taliban resistance on the hill is suppressed. But Operation Medusa is far from over. Kandahar remains under threat, and the supply route to the south is still in enemy hands, allowing them to reinforce Taliban fighters.
We need to push out. We need to give ourselves some space. You can't just live on the mountain. You got to get out there.
There was a couple mountains west of Spirungar, which they believed was an area that the Taliban was using to stage the attacks. So they sent Bruce's team to that area to clear it out.
September 9th, 10 a.m. Captain Bruce Scullion's team move off the hill toward the village of Zangabad, directly in line with the Taliban resupply route.
Zangabad is southwest of Spirwangar. Enemy forces were moving from west to east, coming to reinforce their position. It made sense to put a block and try to disrupt that flow of enemy equipment.
To get to the village and find a base, Task Force 31 ODA 336 abandon their trucks and go by foot. They can only take the essentials.
What they're missing now by walking in, Bruce's team has given up the 50 cal machine gun, they've given up their Mark 19s, and they've given up all their heavy weapons. Essentially, all they really have are the machine guns that they can carry.
Moving around in that heat with body armor on it's exhausting. It was challenging for me to focus on what the next mission was.
1 p.m. After walking for 3 hours, Captain Scullion's team arrive in Zangabad village.
I thought that I needed a fixed location, something that would get us up off the ground, provide great cover and concealment.
A cleared compound provides the base they've been looking for. Scullion sets up a comms base on the lower floor and sends Conrad and Eldred with the rest of the team onto the roof for observation.
Our A&A guys yell at me, they're like, hey, Ben, Taliban. I take some binoculars and I look, and sure enough, now there's Taliban walking along that main road.
5 or 6 of them all had weapons on them.
And told everybody on the roof, I was like, okay, get ready.
Ben waited for them to close to a certain distance.
So I went ahead and made the first shot. And then everybody else opened up. And we killed those guys.
Minor success, but the team's cover is blown. Taliban reinforcements are now aware of their exact location.
And it was just dead quiet for about a minute or so. I mean, there's nothing. And then after that, it was like the whole world just absolutely opened up on us.
2 p.m. The Taliban fighters surround the compound, firing with a vengeance.
So Taliban fighters from all over the area start to come. They start running to the sound of the guns, and they're all starting to come to that area. And from the top of the hill, Rusty can see them. Everybody's coming to where Bruce, Ben, and Jared are holed up in an Alamo-like battle in this compound. And so all of a sudden, they're getting machine gun fire, they're getting RPG fire. The Afghans are fighting back as best they can. And Bruce is on the radio trying to get some help, because at this point, they're dangerously close with that many fighters of getting surrounded.
Once again, U.S. forces find themselves vastly outnumbered.
I was on the ground next to our radio, behind this mud wall. I had probably the most protected position. I mean, it was coming over my head, aimed at the guys on the roof. My main focus was staying on the radio to ensure everybody knew what was going on.
On the roof, with little cover, Sergeants Conrad and Eldred take the full brunt of the attack.
We're on top of the roof, keeping the enemy at bay, and you're surrounded. And you're literally surrounded, and you're telling your lieutenant commander, like, we are going to die.
Then they started firing rocket-propelled grenades at us. And that was when my communication with my teammates on the roof deteriorated.
The team on the roof loses radio contact. Now Scullion can only listen as they're attacked above him.
The volume of fire on the rooftop was intense.
I mean, I don't care who you are. No one says, hey, you know what I want to do today? I want to be 5 feet from someone who's shooting at me. So, not some great, 300 movie, nothing like, no great, glorious, here's the day and the music plays. Because, you never get music in a real gunfight. You never get anything to motivate you other than whatever you can come up with on your own. So in a very non-romantic way, it's just like, literally, man, you snap out of it, man, you gotta get back to the gunfight.
At this point now, the Taliban are like, they're literally probably about 20 meters outside.
As Scullion radios for help, an RPG hits his shelter.
I remember feeling some pressure from behind me, like heat and pressure, and kind of a loud, and that was it.
I knew in my heart that this was going to be it. I said my prayers, made my amends with God, and basically got ready to die.
4 p.m. Captain Bruce Scullion's team is pinned down, surrounded by a Taliban force 3 times their size, cut off from their trucks and running out of ammo. The odds are against them making it out alive.
It became more difficult to tell exactly what we were dealing with. A good number would have been maybe 70, 75.
With air support at least 10 minutes away,
Roger, I copy. Dangerous close.
the men are losing hope.
We are engaging the enemy, and we are not keeping them at bay.
I thought for sure Bruce had probably been hit or killed. Went down to him, grabbed him, and pulled him up. He had mud and dirt all over his face and everything. And he looks up at me and he's like, what happened? I was like, all right, he's all right.
I remember gradually coming back.
The fire is too heavy. There's no escape.
We realized there were more enemy in that area.
We only had the ammo we could carry, and now we don't have those huge gun trucks that are like a Swiss Army knife of war. And you're running out of bullets, and you're engaging enemy, and you're scared that you're going to have to reload, and you're not going to have time to reload before someone shoots you. You made your peace with God that day. No one in that compound didn't.
I got ready to, accept the fact that we were going to be overrun, because in my mind, I knew we were going to be overrun, because it didn't look like there was anybody coming to help us out.
Once I started feeling a little better, I got back on the radio.
5 miles away, on top of Spurwangar Hill, Captain Dave Hodges receives the distress call.
Bruce comes on the radio and he says, I'm black on ammo, which means they got nothing left. But what they got left is what's in their guns. And they got a casualty. And at that point, I told my guys, we're going.
Hodges takes a few of his team and sets off at full speed. Every second is vital to Scullion's men.
And as we were moving to them, they started shooting at us. So I used that truck. I told my driver, just keep going, get to Bruce. No, go straight, go through, I don't care, hit the wall, hit it.
Using his truck to smash his way through, Hodges' team is off-road and under fire, risking their own lives to reach Scullion's team.
So I used my truck and that tire as a battering ram and blasted through walls to get to that location.
Hodges radios Scullion's team to let them know they're on the way.
They came up on our side and totally selflessly came to help us, and not even knowing what they could be getting into. it took so much heat off us.
Once making it to the outskirts of the village, Hodges reaches out again to Scullion. If Scullion's team can get out of the house, they can escape in Hodges' truck. But they're under fire. They're in danger of being killed before they can reach him.
And all of a sudden I look over, these 2 Hornets come in as low as I've ever seen an aircraft. I mean, it was so low, I could see the patches on their uniforms and their headgear.
The U.S. Navy F-18s have arrived. With every pass, they neutralize the surrounding Taliban forces.
It sounded like a miracle at that point, but really, really loud.
Under the cover of the F-18s, Scullion's team run for their lives.
And thank God the aircraft came in, and that was the way we were actually able to come out. And I don't care, you call that a retreat all you want. I'll stand up to anybody and say, yep, I ran my ass off as fast as I can run.
As the F-18s drive the Taliban back, Hodges' team's act of valor saves the lives of Scullion's team. As they pull back from the now cleared Zangabad village, they're able to consolidate their position on Sperwangar Hill itself. The coalition holds it to this day. Task Force 31's efforts in support of Operation Medusa helped turn the war in Afghanistan. Without their victory, the Taliban would have maintained its hold on Kandahar, and with it, the south of the country.
The Battle of Sperwangar, the fate of at least southern Afghanistan, if not the war, was hinged on it.
That was the first time all the effort, all the training, the years of commitment, that it was actually validated.
Captain Hodges is awarded the Army Commendation Medal for Valor and the Purple Heart.
It's never what you think it's going to be. You know, 20 plus years ago when I joined the Army as a private, if you'd have told me that I'd have been assaulting a hill, you know, I was 38 years old, doing what I had to get done to complete my mission. And people don't know that stuff. Somebody's got to be there to watch where that missile goes.
I met Dave and his son, and I told his son that, you know, Dave's a true hero. His son should be very proud of him.
Yeah, those guys saved our lives.
I would never have met my son. You see the guys with you, you meet their kids. Hey man, none of that would have happened.
Coming close to death gives you the best opportunity ever to try to live better. Because until that moment, you really don't think it can be gone.